3 names out. 1 name in. And the Los Angeles Dodgers just rewrote their entire future in a single phone call. This was not a minor roster adjustment. This was not the kind of quiet, procedural move that front offices make in the middle of a long season when the standings demand a small correction. What the Dodgers have just done is the kind of bold, calculated, franchise-altering decision that separates championship organizations from everyone else. And when the full weight of this trade finally settles across the baseball world, nobody is going to be talking about anything else. 3 respected, experienced, well-compensated members of this roster are gone. And what is coming back in return has the potential to change everything. The rumors had been building for weeks. According to multiple sources familiar with the Dodgers front office conversations, the organization had been engaged in serious trade discussions with multiple teams throughout the month. These were not casual exploratory calls. These were deep, detailed negotiations involving real names, real numbers, and real decisions that would have lasting consequences for everyone involved. President of Baseball Operations Andrew Friedman, according to those familiar with his process, had been working through the possibilities with extraordinary precision. The Dodgers do not make moves impulsively. They do not react to pressure or panic in the face of short-term struggles. Every decision that comes out of that front office is the product of extensive analysis, internal debate, and a clear-eyed understanding of where this organization is trying to go, not just this season, but for the next several years. And the conclusion that Friedman and his team reached was one that few people outside the organization saw coming with this kind of speed and finality. Kiké Hernández, Miguel Rojas, Teoscar Hernández. All 3 would be part of the deal. And what was coming back was a $235 million superstar who immediately transforms the Dodgers' outlook for the remainder of this season and beyond. According to multiple inside sources, the mood inside the Dodgers facility when the trade was finalized was unlike anything the clubhouse had experienced in recent memory. There was no gradual build-up. No slow leak of information that gave players time to process what was happening. The news arrived quickly, and it arrived with full force. Kiké Hernández, a player who has worn the Dodgers uniform across 2 separate stints and who has been one of the most beloved figures in that clubhouse for years, learned of the trade in a moment that those present described as genuinely emotional. Kiké is not simply a useful roster piece. He is the kind of player whose personality, whose energy, whose presence in a locker room shapes the culture of an entire team. His laugh fills a room. His competitiveness is contagious. His understanding of what it means to be a Dodger runs deeper than almost anyone currently on the roster. When his name was confirmed as part of the deal, not a single person in that clubhouse spoke for several seconds. The silence was the kind that only comes when something real has just happened, something that cannot be walked back or reconsidered or softened with careful language. Miguel Rojas received the news with the quiet dignity that has always defined him as a professional. According to multiple sources present in those moments, Rojas sat still for a long time after being informed. He did not raise his voice. He did not express bitterness or direct his emotions outward. But those who know him well understood that the stillness itself said everything. Rojas has been the definition of a professional baseball player throughout his career. He plays the game the right way, every single day, regardless of the situation or the circumstances. He prepares. He leads. He handles the difficult moments with a composure that younger players in that clubhouse look to as a standard for how the game should be approached. To see him included in a trade of this nature, to watch him absorb that information in real time, was, according to those present, one of the heavier moments the clubhouse had witnessed all season. Teoscar Hernández, for his part, had been navigating his own complicated stretch of the season. The offensive production that the Dodgers had brought him in to provide had been inconsistent in recent weeks, and according to multiple sources familiar with the internal conversations, the front office had been reassessing his role within the roster construction for some time. That reassessment ultimately contributed to the decision to include him in the package. But knowing the reasoning behind a decision does not make the moment of that decision any easier to sit with. And then there is the player coming the other direction. The $235 million superstar who is now a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers represents exactly the kind of addition that championship rosters are built around. This is not a depth piece. This is not a player being acquired to fill a specific positional gap or provide a particular matchup advantage off the bench. This is a premier talent, the kind of player whose presence in a lineup immediately changes how opposing pitchers and managers approach every single game. According to multiple sources familiar with the negotiations, acquiring this player had been a priority for the Dodgers front office for longer than most people realized. The conversations had started quietly, in the background, while other moves and other stories dominated the headlines. But the interest was always there. The belief that this player could elevate this roster to another level was always there. The challenge was finding a package that worked for both sides. And the challenge was significant, because what the acquiring team was giving up in Kiké, Rojas, and Teoscar represented real value, experienced, major league-ready contributors who could step into meaningful roles on a contending roster immediately. But Friedman and his staff believed the return was worth it. And based on what this player brings to a lineup that has been searching for consistent, explosive production, it is very difficult to argue otherwise. The reaction from around the league arrived quickly. Multiple front office executives from other organizations, speaking to sources familiar with those conversations, described the move as aggressive, bold, and entirely consistent with how the Dodgers have operated when they believe a championship window is fully open. Rival teams that had been monitoring the Dodgers situation closely throughout the season now found themselves reassessing their own plans in light of what this addition means for the balance of power in the National League. Analysts and broadcasters who cover the league daily were nearly unanimous in describing the trade as a significant upgrade for Los Angeles. The pieces given up were respected. The piece coming back is a difference maker. And in a season where the margin between contending and falling short can come down to a single at-bat, a single defensive play, a single moment when a lineup either produces or doesn't, having a $235 million superstar capable of changing the game by himself carries a weight that cannot be overstated. Inside the Dodgers clubhouse, according to multiple sources, the reaction to the incoming player was one of genuine excitement cutting through the heaviness of the departures. Players who had been sitting quietly, processing the reality of losing teammates they genuinely cared about, began to shift as the full picture of the trade became clear. Because this is still a clubhouse full of competitors. These are still players who wake up every morning with one goal in front of them. And the player now joining their roster gives them something they have been looking for, a proven, elite-level contributor who has performed on the biggest stages the sport has to offer. Manager Dave Roberts, according to those familiar with his reaction, expressed confidence in the direction the organization had chosen. Roberts has managed through roster changes, through injuries, through the constant fluctuation that defines a long baseball season. He understands better than most that the game requires difficult decisions, and that the franchises willing to make those decisions clearly and decisively are the ones that sustain success over time. The addition of this player, in Roberts' view, gives the Dodgers exactly what they need heading into the most critical stretch of the season. But for Kiké Hernández, the story carries a layer of emotion that no transaction wire can fully capture. He has been a Dodger. Deeply, genuinely, completely a Dodger. The way he plays, the way he carries himself, the way he has shown up in the moments when this team needed him most, all of it has been woven into the identity of this franchise over the years he has spent here. His contributions have not always appeared in the traditional statistics that front offices use to evaluate roster construction. But they have been felt in that clubhouse, in that dugout, in every game where his presence meant something beyond what any box score could record. Leaving will not be easy. And according to those close to him, he is not pretending otherwise. But baseball is a business. It has always been a business. And the Dodgers, in making this move, have acted exactly as championship organizations act when they believe the moment demands it. 3 players out. 1 superstar in. And the Los Angeles Dodgers just made the boldest statement of their entire season. The rest of the league has been put on notice.